All right, UFC 128, Shogun versus Bones Jones. Here we go. Opening up with the three undercard fights that we are not guaranteed to see, basically. We have Konstantinos Philippou versus Nick Catone, taking Nick Catone, unanimous decision. Think he's a better wrestler, think he's a better grappler. Have seen Philippou, this is his debut. Fought on tough, lost to... I want to say he lost to Joe Henley. Could be wrong. For some reason, I'm thinking that was the submission that Henley got his, or that was the fight that Henley got his butt kicked and pulled out a submission to win it. That's what I'm thinking it was. Eric Koch versus Rafael Assuncao. Going with Assuncao, although Koch can win this fight, or Koch. I've heard it said both ways. Go Koch, I guess. Better wrestler in Koch. Good conditioning, good speed, competes with pace, probably better stand-up. That being said, Assuncao, very, very deadly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. I see this fight possibly going Koch's way for a while. Then in the third round, Assuncao picks up a tap out due to a combination of Koch getting tired or overconfident. Then we have Joe Benavidez versus Ian Loveland. Joke of a fight, to be honest. Benavidez by whatever he wants. Ian Loveland is not UFC level fighter. Just not. That's really all there is to say about that fight. On to the Facebook fights, we have Kurt Pellegrino versus Gleason Tibau. For Gleason, a lot of people are kind of favoring him because they keep talking about how much bigger he is and so on. Problem is, you look at similar fighters Tibau has fought to Kurt Pellegrino, including a guy that Kurt Pellegrino gave a very hard time to, and Joe Stevenson. He loses. Like, he is very prone to losing to the big, strong wrestler types because his wrestling, while he is very big, very, very strong, and so on, doesn't really measure up. And while I'm not a huge fan of Kurt Pellegrino's, I do say he is a very good wrestler, and he will probably win this fight, although he is prone to the stupid submission, which Tibau could catch him in. But Tibau's bottom game is not particularly amazing. So I'm going to go Kurt Pellegrino via unanimous decision. The Benavidez fight, I honestly don't have a prediction for how it'll go. It literally will depend on what Joe Benavidez wants to do. The other Facebook fight is Ricardo Almeida versus Mike Pyle. Very inconclusive about this fight. I think about it. Both guys, very good BJJ guys. Some stand-up, some wrestling. I think Kyle is the technically better fighter, but I think Almeida is the bigger fighter. In terms of wrestling, anyways, I think Almeida's probably the better grappler. Pyle's probably the better stand-up guy. I'm going to go with Mike Pyle because I've been very unimpressed with Ricardo Almeida at 170. He doesn't seem to be handling the weight class very well. I'm going to go with Mike Pyle, unanimous decision. Then we on to the spike card. We have Edson Barboza versus Anthony Njokuani. Njokuani has shown that if you face him with a good striker, he will probably lose. Barboza is a beast of a leg kicker. He doesn't really have the names yet on his record in terms of who he's beaten. UFC debut against Mike Lolo, but he took it to the point where Lolo couldn't walk. I mean, his leg kicks are some of the nastiest in the division. He has a very solid ground game, very solid wrestling to him for a Brazilian fighter. Njokuani's bread and butter is stand-up, and when he's met fellow kickboxers, it hasn't gone very well for him. So I'm going with Edson Barboza. The other thing is, of course, even if Njokuani can't outstrike Barboza, I see Barboza being able to take him down and being able to beat him on the ground. So I'm going to go with Edson Barboza. I'm going to go second round TKO. Elliot Marshall, Luis Archer Kane, or Kane. Kane's not looked amazing lately. Elliot Marshall's back after, I believe he was cut, and he is returning now. Of course, he's of tough fame. He had a very good fight with Karen Gregorian. He beat... who did he beat? Shane Prynn. I'm going to say Shane Prynn. I think it was him. I think he beat him on The Ultimate Fighter and then lost to Ryan Bader. What does he bring to the table? He is a very well-rounded fighter. BJJ black belt, pretty damn good stand-up. Not the greatest wrestling in the world from what I've really seen. I mean, he got it wrestled by Jason Brills, got it wrestled by Vladimir Matyushenko. Matyushenko is a very good wrestler, but Brills is not anything spectacular. So Kane's got a shot. Kane embarrassed Jason Lambert back in the day, but he hasn't looked good in a succession of fights. I'm going to go with Elliot Marshall. I think he finds a way to get him down. I think he finds a way to maintain top position. I don't think he submits him or can TKO him, but I think he can, make this a ground fight and take it to a unanimous decision. It could be a potentially good fight even on the ground. Both these guys do know what they're doing. On to the main card, Brendan Schaub, Mirko Cro Cop. Schaub getting a lot of hate lately. I don't necessarily disagree with it. He does come off as cocky, overconfident, a little arrogant. He made, I believe, the shooting motion to Chase Gormley. He had the dusted off when he knocked out Chris Tucker. He has a tendency to say that as long as you don't put me, that begging to get put in there with someone that's not a fat wrestler. All this being said, Schaub has a lot of upside to him. He has a pretty well-rounded skill set, very good hands. Not a lot of kicks from what I've seen, but perhaps he's just waiting to really show the full gambit of strikes. That got knocked out by Roy Nelson. Of course, that was a big setback. He's coming off the destruction of Gabriel Gonzaga. Well, not destruction. Didn't finish him, so I can't say destruction, but showed well. Cro Cop, of course, has not looked like Cro Cop since the Pride Openweight Grand Prix, I would have to say. While he has won some fights in the UFC, he still hasn't looked like former number 2 in the world Cro Cop. I have to take Schaub. I think he has the speed, he has the size, he has the power advantages. I think at this point, Cro Cop's striking has really atrophied. I think his killer instinct is very much missing. Schaub doesn't appear to be doing the Pat Barry syndrome where he respects a guy too much. If anything, he respects him too little, which could catch him. But I got to go with Schaub. I'm going to say via second round TKO. Moving his way up the ladder. And hopefully, I don't know, after the fight, he's not a douchebag. Let's go with that. We have Nate Marquardt versus Dan Miller. Got to go with Marquardt. Even though Marquardt has heavily disappointed me, Dan Miller has also heavily disappointed me. These two guys are effectively wrestlers who have grown other skills, but on the feet, I give it to Marquardt. I think Marquardt's the better wrestler. On the ground, I think it's somewhat a wash, but Marquardt's got ridiculous power. Dan Miller's a very hard guy to finish, but I kind of want to go with it on this one. Marquardt, I think, will be looking to make a bit of a statement. I think he comes out there, he will have the proper game plan, and he will smash the face in a nutshell. Marquardt, second round TKO via heavy hands, and wanting to make a statement with it. I think he'll be motivated. Then we have the other Miller brother, Jim Miller versus Kamal Chalarousse. Chalarousse is an amazing wrestler who has heavy hands, but lacks technical ability and speed on the feet. His ground game is not particularly tested, and his cardio seems to be somewhat suspect. As a result, I got to go with the better of the Miller brothers, Jim Miller. Jim Miller is a amazingly well-rounded fighter. Very good ground game. Very solid wrestling. I think perhaps Chalarousse takes the first round, but then Miller comes back, and I'm going to say he gets him with a submission in the third round. I just think that there's a lot of ways for Jim Miller to end this fight. There's not a lot of ways for Chalarousse other than big, heavy, fisted hand or decision to win this fight. Uriah Faber, Eddie Weinland. Faber, very fast, very athletic, very explosive. Needs to learn to check leg kicks. If you look at the Jose Aldo fight. Stand-up is pretty good, very much developing. Very solid wrestling base, very solid grappling ability. Eddie Weinland is more or less just a striker. He does bring some pretty solid wrestling to the table, but his ground game is somewhat porous. I see Faber being able to take him down. I see Faber being able to pass guard. And I see Faber winning by a first-round submission. Let's go rear naked choke since I'm being very specific this time. I just think that Faber brings too much general overall skills to the table than Weinland. Of course, haven't seen a lot of him at 135 yet, so we don't know how he's really handling the cut, but I think it'll be good enough to get this win. I think this is a build-up fight in a nutshell. And then the main event, Jon Bones Jones, Shogun Rua. The veteran versus the up-and-comer, which is ironic because Shogun was in this role not too long ago of the up-and-comer. What does Jon Jones have going for him in this fight? He has size, reach, explosiveness, amazing athleticism, amazing speed, and a very good wrestling base and skills that are rounding out nicely with the stand-up and the ground game. Stand-up is somewhat unorthodox, which can be good due to the shock value, the unpredictability level of it, but at the same time, things are generally unorthodox for a reason, and Shogun is an amazingly good technical striker. So Shogun, amazingly good technical striking. Cardio seems to have finally sorted itself out. He's in somewhat of a healthy shape that he was not when he originally came to the UFC. Pretty good wrestling base, although Jones's is probably better, and a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background. So on the feet, technically I give the advantage to Shogun. That being said, Jones has speed, has a potential speed advantage, has a lot of power, as we've seen with the brutal ground and pound, the brutal just destructions he's handed on people, and he also has reach. In terms of the wrestling game, I have to favor Jon Jones. On the ground, I probably favor Shogun. That being said, if Jones gets on top of him, we have seen in the past that better wrestlers can nullify a really good BJJ guy's ground game on the top. Cardio-wise, there's questions about both of them. We've seen Shogun come out and fight Machida in a 5-round fight, and he looked pretty good. But Machida's not a guy who pushes the pace and tries to tire you out very much. Shogun did have legendary cardio, but that was before the ridiculous quantity of knee injuries he's had, to the point where those are basically bionic knees. Jones, we've never really seen go particularly deep into a fight. We've never seen a 5-round fight, and I believe in terms of even going to the 3rd round, I want to say the only one he's done that in is Stephan Bonner. So there is a question mark there, but I haven't seen him get tired, so I gotta think he's kind of ready. Normally I would go with Shogun. There's more things in his favor. That being said, this is one of those kind of gut things where I'm kind of thinking I'm going to go with Bones Jones. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Jon Jones via TKO in the 3rd round. I don't particularly know how. It really is a gut feeling, because Shogun does have very good technical stand-up, but the reach, the explosiveness, the speed, the wrestling credentials, these could all be a heavy problem. And we've seen guys who we thought had advantages over Jones in some areas not deliver. So that's what I'm going to go with. Peace out.